It's time to strap in and get ready for the front stretch. Presented by Joe's Karting. Dan and Dirk are live in the studio today, ready to hear from you at 402-573-0590.
To the contrary, we are live from Knoxville Raceway, recapping the 14th annual Knoxville Late Model Nationals.
Did you say we're alive or live?
I believe we're both. Right?
It's a stretch.
Are we alive? It's early, and it was a late night at Knoxville Raceway. Thank you, Mother Nature. And by the way, not being sarcastic, thank you to the track crew that got that track ready much quicker than I anticipated and much better condition. This is the front stretch presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs, online at joeskarting.com. Fast-paced, white-knuckle racing just across the river on 23rd Avenue. Get over to Joe's today and do some eco-friendly Honda engine racing today. Today's show lined up for you. We are going to recap the 14th annual Knoxville Nationals. We'll bring you interviews from the top three, our thoughts on the races. Then in turn number two, Anthony Ainslie is co-hosting with us today. How you doing, bud?
Yeah, doing all right, guys.
That air mattress treat you okay?
Yeah, it seemed all right, but other than the AC, then the extra AC, I should say, the air mattress, it was fine.
Well, normally there's a lot of hot air blowing around the room with Dirk and I in it, so we got to keep that AC going.
Yeah, it even gets hotter with me. I know.
That AC was in for a treat last night, and it did well. So we're going to talk to Andy, kind of get his thoughts on the Knoxville Nationals, and then we're also going to recap the Junction Motor Speedway season, and then the Malvern Super Late Model Series. You guys have just a couple more races to go before that's the season for you.
Actually, only one left.
Just one.
Yeah, it's all come down to this. It's been a very eventful season. Been kind of bummed that a couple of our races were taken due to weather, but tell you what, it's been an incredible season so far, and it comes to a head in just a couple of weeks.
We'll recap all of that in turn number two. Then in turn number three, we are going to talk about some of the news and notes that have circled around the silly season in NASCAR. Just when you think, Dirk, things are kind of cooling off a little bit for the NASCAR silly season, it goes and fires right back up again.
It's a long way from being cooled off this year.
It gets more perplexing. It's like the old saying: anytime we answer a question, we find five more.
Well, that's true, but this year just seems to be a lot more than the norm.
Yeah.
You just had a lot of guys on contract years. The sport's evolving a little bit to where these guys aren't getting the big, hefty, guaranteed contracts where they're all being put on percentage of winnings. And stuff like that. That's why you see like Kurt Busch and Matt Kenseth and Casey Kane all kind of looking around at each other right now, trying to figure out what's going to happen for sure.
Turn number four, we will give you a couple of the news and notes that are circling around the dirt track world, get you set for the first race in the NASCAR playoff system. Chicagoland will also get you one last opportunity to get set for the Pick'ems contest, the 5-week Kansas Speedway Pick'ems contest that starts today. If you've been thinking about joining it, it is absolutely free thanks to our friend Rick Havenridge over at Wealth Partners, and you can take full advantage of an awesome opportunity if you are the best of the 5 pickers for the contest. So without further ado, let's talk about the Knoxville Nationals, the 14th annual racing of the Knoxville Nationals. If you haven't heard about this race yet, it's still growing, and I'm not surprised if you haven't heard about it yet, because you're thinking, wait, late models at Knoxville. That's
doesn't make sense.
That's ebony and ivory, that's just not the two things that go together. But this track, it not being Knoxville, is turning into a one-time late model show, and they prep it very well for the late models. You do have to prep it differently, right, Dirk? You can't prep it the same way as you do for a sprint car.
It's going to be pretty much the same. There's with the horsepower these late models are putting out anymore, they're a little bit short of the sprint car engine, but not too much. Tires are a little bit different, actually a lot different. And last night, as some of the guys alluded to in the press conference afterwards, that they were mandated to run a soft compound on the front tires, which caused a few guys some issues during the race. But no, the track prep, the way the track's going to react is pretty much the same.
And we got to the track yesterday at about, 3 o'clock, I think 4 o'clock, and already we knew it was looking shaky because there was rain that had been in the area the night before.
There was a monsoon a half an hour
Yep.
before the racetrack that we drove through, and I mean, it was poor.
And by the way, we're lucky that didn't hit the track. I mean, that would have ended. We'd be racing today if that had hit the track, because it was, like you said, that was a monsoon of sorts. And but we ended up getting to the track, and the rain kind of came and went a little bit, sprinkled here and there. We didn't really have a big rain, but just enough to delay things.
Well, it sprinkled pretty hard, and this track is so flat that the rain has nowhere to go. It just sits there. So that's the challenge, is to almost to dry the track, because they had the maintainer out, and we're blading off the top, but no, they did a real good job, and all the track packers that they had, and they only had about 15 for this big track. That's not very many, but they made all the racers that were in the feature, all 32 cars, get out and pack, and everybody did their bit, and they got out there and raced and ran hard.
Yeah, we got the program underway, and kudos to Knoxville for. I give them a lot of props, because they didn't say, well, the plan is that we're going to run the C, we're going to run the B, and we're going to run the A, and weather be damned. We're going to do it whether they were conscious about it. They knew that there was weather coming, and so they ended up canceling the C completely and just moving those cars into the back of the B. And for the night, we just had a B feature and an A feature, and I don't know why we did it. We ran into Ben Shelton of Dirt on Dirt. And for some reason, we always do this. And Ben says, we might be out here by 8:30. We jinxed ourselves. I mean, it was looking like we could have been. We only had 2 features to run. A full A, which is a 100-lap feature. We jinxed ourselves. After the B feature, the rain came, and that's when they had to send the track prep out, and they had to cut the track back up again. They had to repack it, and an absolutely beautiful surface they gave these guys, and a fast one at that. When they came out, we were running those second set of hot laps for the feature qualifiers and getting in heat back in the engine, letting these guys feel the track out just a little bit. They were running 17.1, 17.2 second laps, and that's a majority of the field when they're on the scoring and timing.
Yeah, they were fast, very fast. Like I said, a light drizzle started with 5 or 6 laps to go in the Consi. They did another good thing by moving the program up a half hour.
Yeah, and they canceled all the A feature ceremonies.
Festivities.
Yeah, they just said,
no
what?
driver introductions or anything like that. They skipped all of that. And, I mean, they were legitimately worried, and even Jared Landers talked about it in the interview, of the weather coming back in, because it was supposed to hit around 11 o'clock again. And so they kept saying, we need to get to lap 51, which is where the fuel stop is. So after the fuel stop, it's a full race.
We ended up throwing the green flag for the 100-lap feature at about 10:39. So with 100 laps to go and the rain coming at 11, you're absolutely right. I think it was... Thank you, Windows. My Windows Defender is updated. I appreciate that bleeding through the show. Anyways, the Jonathan Richards didn't want to push his car that hard. He talked about it during the 50-lap break when they were refueling, and said, I didn't want to push my car that hard that quickly, but you had to, because I wanted to be out front right now during the fuel stop just in case the rain came and this race is official.
Yeah, I really doubt that had anything to do with his, couple lap short demise, but it might have.
Yeah.
You never know until you actually get down and tear things apart after the race. But, Mike Marlar talked about the same thing. They all talked about it. Jared Landers said, he goes, I'm running around in 10th, and normally on a 100-lap race, I just sat there and saved my equipment for 50 laps, but he goes, I couldn't do that today.
Yeah. Anthony, thoughts on the first 50 laps? What you saw of some of those guys in some of the battles on the track?
Well, it was a very what I saw. One of the best battles that I saw was around the 5th and 6th place positions. Tim McCready and Jimmy Owens were going at it, and then we had that great battle. I think Jared Landers at the time was battling with Scott Bloomquist. Bloomquist had quite a bit of issues throughout this race. He started 12th. He started working his way up, but once he got around 6th to 5th, it looks like, the zero just couldn't find any other way to advance his position. But Bloomquist had a great race going, and then of course, a couple of the guys who were struggling early in the race. Shannon Babb, after having some troubles, he was in and out of the pits, and so was Jimmy Mars after a spin on a restart. Mars was in and out of the pits, but those guys came on late, as did Steve Francis, who had to qualify from the last chance qualifier to make the show. Francis, and along with Mars and Babb, they were working their way towards the front there, going into that fuel stop, and it really set up a pretty interesting last 50 laps.
Well, those guys also had, in their many pit stops, and Steve Francis was in on that group too, had put on fresh right rear tires.
Yeah.
And I think that's what made the difference for them late in the race, because I think Bloomquist's right rear was shot because he was dropping a spot a lap there right towards the end. Get his final.
Dan, you made a mention of this during the during that fuel stop. You said it yourself. We were sitting right by each other. Bloomquist was the only one who did not shut his motor off during that fuel stop. We're wondering if the motor just got tired late in the run, or we'll see if that played a factor.
I was surprised by that, because fuel was the concern after they came in for that 50 lap. I guess it wasn't anymore. Maybe he was just trying to burn off a little bit more than everybody else, so that his car was lighter during those last couple of laps.
Well, no, he just wouldn't have put so much in if that's what he thought the case was. Instead of throwing 10 gallons in, which was what it looked like most of the guys put in, he'd put in 6 or 8 or whatever. But he was probably having a cooling issue because there was a ton of mud. A ton of mud.
Oh, yeah.
Almost every driver changed helmets
Yeah.
at the fuel stop with fresh tear-offs, and they were all scraping off a ton of mud every time they went into the repair section, too.
Let's back up a little bit. B main winners, the 6 that transferred on: Jesse Stovall, Kyle Bronson, Steve Francis, Tyler Erb, Spencer Derricks, and Brett Larson. And then you said there was two provisionals.
After the top 6 got there, and of course Brett Larson. I think Larson was pretty much the talk of that B main.
He was 8th going back to that restart, right?
He was 7th. What was it? An Iowa native, Tyler Bruning out of Decorah. He was holding down that final transfer spot. It was a 1-lap dash after a caution came out on the final lap, and Larson made the move to knock Bruning out of the chance at the 100-lap main event. But yeah, Brent Larson did a good job. And then, of course, the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series provisionals went up. One of the Rookie of the Year contenders, Boom Briggs, got one of them. The other one, I was a little surprised to see this, but was it the Dirt Late Model Dream winner from last year, Dennis Erb Jr., having to take a provisional to get into the Knoxville Nationals main event.
Yeah, and you see that a lot, actually. I was surprised. We're going to have to kind of keep moving along here, but so the green flag waves for the main 100-lap feature. First caution comes out with just 18 laps completed. Guys, I was kind of surprised at the amount of cautions through this race, but it wasn't anything like we typically see on our weekly Friday night, where there was this a lone spinner or something happened. This was blown tires, engines going down, hopping the cushion, tagging the wall, not able to get it fired back up again. But there was 6 cautions before the fuel stop. The fuel stop was the 7th caution.
Well, I think we ended up with 12, and I think last year's race, if I remember correctly, was 14 cautions, so about the same pace, so I don't know, when you sit and you look at the average of one every 10 laps, there was one spot where I think we had a caution with 72 to go, and then another one was 69 to go, and then, of course, the mandatory fuel stop caution. It's the ones where you just get them back-to-back that really seem to, break up the continuity of the show.
The fuel stop was an issue that the track had addressed earlier in the year. You'd sent me the message on Facebook about the race officials abruptly changed the race length to 80 laps. And the reason behind it was there was 7 cars that had ran out of fuel last year.
And the year before there was like 3.
I believe including Josh Richards, who was running second with about 2 laps to go. He ran out of fuel, cost him a chance at victory.
Yeah, and so the track officials said, okay, let's back it down to 80 laps. That way we don't have to worry about fuel. These guys will have a full tank of gas when they get out on the track to start the race, and we don't have to worry about people running out of fuel. But the fans spoke out and were kind of frustrated and said, no, we want a 100-lap race. Those who have bought tickets already, we paid for a 100-lap race. We want a 100-lap race. So the compromise was, the original plan was that they were going to throw the caution. If a caution came out between lap 20 and 40, they were going to pick one of those times to bring them down for fuel, or they were going to do it at lap 41 mandatory. So if a caution hadn't come out or they hadn't done it yet, and then they would throw the caution at lap 41. With the weather, they decided to move that mandatory stop to lap 50 because they wanted to make sure before they stopped the action on the track, took 10-15 minutes to refuel these cars and to get everything going again, they wanted to make sure the race was official. So that was our fuel stop at lap 50. And your race recap for leaders, get back up here to my top screen. Mike Marlar Davenport led the first 17 laps, but then hopped the cushion coming out of turn number 2. We talked with third place finisher Jared Landers about what was going on in turn 2, because I saw a lot of cars bobbling in turn 2, sliding up the track and almost hitting the Hall of Fame. I mean, they were jumping up the track so quickly. So Davenport led the first 17. Richards was able to get by, and Richards dominated for a majority of that race all the way up until lap 91 when Mike Marlar, defending champion of the race, was able to not get by him. He blew by Richards.
Absolutely.
And Richards, we can't really tell, we weren't able to talk to him if he had something going wrong with his car at the time, but a lap or two later, he ends up bringing out the caution by making hard contact in turn 3.
Right, front went down on him, just, like the guy said, with those soft tires, they were having a lot of blistering problems with those right fronts. There were several cars that had that issue.
We're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back in turn number 2, and we're going to play the audio from the top 3 finishers. Then we'll talk to Anthony about the Junction Motor Speedway season recap and preview the Malvern Bank Super Late Model Championship night at I-80 Speedway for the Midwest Fall Brawl. We'll be back in turn number 2 here on the front stretch. This week's young gun on the front stretch is 20-year-old Connor, the Dirty 30 Davison. Connor's been running around dirt tracks and watching his cousin race since he learned to walk. It was only a matter of time before he found the funding to compete in the world's greatest sport. Thanks to the support from his mom, dad, and family, Connor just finished his first year behind the wheel of a dirt car. He started out driving a hobby stock, but mid-season he upgraded to a mighty modified. Connor competed weekly at Adams County Speedway, but also tried his hand out at I-80 Speedway and Off-Road Speedway. Connor's goal this season was to simply learn as much as he could and figure out how each adjustment affects his car. Someday he hopes to be holding the points championship hardware at ACS and then move on to compete with the US MTS Modifieds. In the meantime, make sure to keep your eye out for the 5X, Davison Farms, Ramsey Hay Grinding, Davies Farm, A Modified at a dirt track near you. This week's Young Gun of the Front Stretch has been presented by I-80 Speedway. Tickets for the Midwest Fall Brawl are available now at i80speedway.com.
One big night of dirt track action is coming to I-80 Speedway on September 30th. The Midwest Fall Brawl featuring ASCS and Nebraska 360 sprint cars with the Malvern Bank Super Late models.
The biggest names in the Midwest, Dover, Burke, Layton, Bade, and many more all battle at I-80 Speedway for the right to stand in victory lane.
Don't miss the Midwest Fall Brawl featuring ASCS and Nebraska 360 sprints plus the Malvern Bank Super Late models. i80speedway.com for tickets and information.
Need a reason to be at Kansas Speedway's first playoff elimination race? Here's some. Reason number 4. Last year's winner, Kevin Harvick. You better believe he's ready to burn it down again this year. Reason number 18, Kyle Busch. Love him or hate him, love him and hate him. But don't ever underestimate him. The Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series Hollywood Casino 400, Sunday, October 22nd. Tickets at kansasspeedway.com.
Dan and Dirk are rolling into turn 2 with a little attitude on the front stretch.
I want to say a big congratulations to Dustin Thompson, who was one of our young guns a few weeks back over at Adams County Speedway. Picked up the track championship last night after, I believe, their final points not got rained out.
Yep, that was the case.
So he inherited the points championship. Congratulations to Dustin, one of those young guns that we featured earlier this year, and he's going to have to wait until Thursday this week this coming week to find out if he's going to be the NASCAR national champion. Last time we looked, he was the points leader, but there are still a couple of races for drivers around the country to take care of that. So congratulations to that. If you happen to have any young guns, please email us. frontstretchradio@gmail.com. It's free to get in. It's free to be featured. We have some great sponsors with Sarah Kelly and Sewell Personal Injury Attorneys and I-80 Speedway, and just trying to put a spotlight on some of those young drivers. All right, top three finishers. We got to talk to those guys last night. Jared Landers came home in the third spot. Jonathan Davenport, Superman, after looking strong early, having an issue, cutting a tire just before the fuel stop. Ended up finishing second, making his way back through. I think he started like 30th when he restarted.
Started about maybe 28th or 29th.
I can't remember how many cars were still left in the field when they did that fuel stop.
Yeah, and he had that tire go down as they were sitting there, so then they wouldn't let him work on the car. Right. All it was fuel.
Yep, and the rule was you could make adjustments to the car. You could not change tires. Period. No change in the tires, so he had to come back around, go into the work area, and then go to the back of the field after he had an incredibly strong car late in that 50-lap run, coming to the fuel stop, and I think he could have really contended for the lead, but again, that flat tire was just an untimely thing.
Well, they had the top two cars finish the top two cars, but they took totally different paths getting there.
Yeah. Here is our conversation with Jared Landers, who, once again, he finished in the third spot. And we had a nice conversation with Jared before. By the way, I'm stalling because I don't have my lineups ready to go. We had a nice conversation with Jared. He had great finish. Thoughts on Jared? Somebody help me stall here for just a few minutes while I try to get this open.
Jared was probably the big comeback story of this Knoxville Nationals. Of course, he set out last year because he had an artery blockage in his neck last year that took him out for the second half of the 2016 season. Of course, the year before that, Jared won the Knoxville Nationals, running that teammate car to Scott Bloomquist. And man, Landers working, I believe, with Larry Warner Motorsports, who works a little bit with Earl Pearson Jr. during the summer. They got together, put this team together kind of like the last minute, and man, what a weekend for the Ragin' Razorback.
Well, my cue sheet has completely disappeared. This is the fun of technology, so we're just going to rough this just a little bit, and I'm going to try to remember what we talked about Jared Landers, but he had a strong car all night, and here's our conversation with Jared.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it was definitely a track you had to figure out how to drive, actually. I had some ups and downs, restarts that I would just get in a bad habit and back my car in the corner. But when I got up there to racing with Josh and them, I was driving in there really, really hard, loading the right front and steering around there, and I was good. But it was really, I just didn't feel comfortable doing it all the time unless when I was door-to-door with somebody, I did it anyway. It just made me do it. But when I got out there and I kind of think about, if I screw up here, I'm going to be running 12th or I'm going to rip the nose off, so I started backing in the corner, which is definitely hard on tires, but I was just trying to be cautious about how I was running it, and at times it would get me over it, and I had to dig out of it, so I couldn't ask for a much better finish. I mean, yes, I did have a car. I had a car that could probably have won the race, I mean, if I played my cards right, for sure, but I just messed up at the wrong times.
Yeah, it seems like when you do these 100-lap feature races, and you guys get to do several of them with the Lucas Oil Late Model Series, that a lot more comes into it than just being fast. You have to manage your tires. You have to pace the track. You have to understand how it's going to move as the laps get counted down.
Yeah, what's weird was they were talking about the rain, so we ran harder than we wanted to early because we were thinking we're getting to 50 laps. So wherever I'm at now, if we have the caution and it rains, so I raced real hard before 50. It was like for 8 laps, I was driving. I probably hurt my tires then, just because. And if it was a smooth 100-lap race and the rain wasn't there, I wouldn't have run it like I did. So
there was a big conversation before the race even got started on social media. The officials tried to move it to an 80-lap feature to make sure that you guys had enough fuel in the tank to get the entire way, and the fans were pretty upset with that. They wanted the 100-lap race. Given your judgment, which way would you rather have it, 80 or 100?
Definitely a 100-lap race. I mean, I don't know why we're missing burning too much fuel here lately. The year I won, I had fuel left when it was over. I mean, it was run hard. I guess Richards run out last year. I don't know how many other people ran out last year, but so that was enough to make sure that everybody got fixed. So, yeah, I do think. Oh, thank you. I do think that that caution didn't matter. It was a good time to talk about with your drive. Hey, this is where you're good at. Your car's actually good here. It actually gave me, a different game plan. But we're also running hard because because the rain was coming. So it wouldn't hurt me to fall back to 10th and ride around and then pick it up later. But thinking the rain was coming, this is where I was going to be at. So I need to stay in a good position.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're worried about the weather, there's no chance. I mean, all you guys are competitive. There was nobody going to back off and, like you said, ride around knowing it might rain. We also noticed sitting in the stands that guys seemed to struggle off and on, and it seemed like everybody did it in turn 2. Was there something in turn 2?
It was a real slick spot right off the bottom. If you enter too hard, you pushed a little bit. And it was dirty above the bottom because people would throw these crumbs across there, so you'd push across the crumbs. Now, when I got way up top, when I entered real hard to the right front, it would stick the tire and drive around the corner. But if I didn't enter just right and I kind of slid to it, and I would stay wheel spun all the way around it. But when I drove in there and dug the car into the ground, then it'd drive around there like all I need is a little bit more confidence in the race car.
How'd your right front look after the race?
I ain't even looked at it yet. Right rear was terrible.
At this point, there was a baked potato in front of him, and the rest of the interview was pretty much inaudible because he was turned around trying to get a good attack plan for that giant baked potato that had been placed in front of him.
To the victor go to spoils.
We just wrapped that baby up. But that was Jared Landers, and then we sat down with Jonathan Davenport. And again, Davenport had such a strong car early, and this was his thoughts.
Yeah, it really did. I guess it's a really good time to have a flat, but the only problem was we had a game plan, and we was going to see how much fuel we burned, see how much we really need to add, but I guess that just throwed us off our whole game plan there. So they put too much fuel in the car, I think, because I was late on the right rear way too much, and we didn't get to communicate right. One of my helmet started leaking air for some reason, so I didn't get to change helmets, and so I had to go to the back. Didn't have many tear off, so I drove one-handed in front of my face, about half the race. So just a lot of things played into it. It was a good time, but it was a bad time. So we had to come in to change tires, made an adjustment on the car. I didn't really like it, but I knew that's the direction we need to go in. I come back in again. So and then we got lucky on the last restart. Everybody just went to the wrong lane, I think. And, we passed 3 or 4 cars there right on the restart.
Yeah, when everybody dove down to the inside on that restart and you stayed up on the high side, did you think, oh, God, what have I done?
I'm like, what are they doing? Because I knew where I needed to be. I figured all those would be up there too. So, I guess that probably won't happen no more because now they'll go back and watch the video and they won't leave that line open again.
What was going on in Turn 2? I noticed a lot of guys had an issue and hopped the cushion as they were coming out of Turn 2. Was there something going on in Turn 2?
I don't know. Just probably a little bit of right front tire. Everybody was scared to put a hard right front on, and you can only steer for about 2 laps. So I'd say that was a little bit of it. Plus, the racetrack where it got right out next to the wall kind of flattens off a little bit. So it was really hard to get your car turned. I know I was just way too tight all night, and just the conditions, we didn't know how much to free up because everybody wants to win the race. Or nobody wants to, be fast the first 20. So I think everybody was just too tight.
I just got a quick math question. You start on the front row, you finish on the front row, but yet you pass like 30 or 40 cars. How does that work?
Sells T-shirts. Now, I guess that's just a little bad luck, but it worked itself out. I probably didn't have the best car, but I probably had the most pissed off driver.
Well, listen, hey, you've had a hell of a night tonight, and in case you were wondering, the refills for the beer right over there.
I've been here a couple of times. I know exactly where they're at.
All right, good job, bud.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, so just let everybody in on that. During the post-race interviews, all 3 of them got a nice small Pepsi cup worth of beer, and somehow Jonathan Davenport got all 3 of them by the time the guys were done talking, and somebody had brought him a refill, so I was really worried that he was still a little bit parched.
Yeah, I mean, they had a big sports drink there, one of those TYRs that they're like 20-ounce bottles, plus a bottle of water.
Oddly enough, nobody drank those.
Yeah, well, we know from, was it last? Yeah, it was last year when we were over here for the sprint car races. We tried one. Attempted. Yeah. And they're...
As a guy who chugs 2 to 3 5-hour energies, sometimes 10 a week, that stuff's bad.
How about that? That was...
Anyways,
quite impressive words from now the now 2-time World 100 winner. Of course, Davenport getting his second Globe just 1 week after this, before this Knoxville Nationals.
While we're rolling through turn 2, trying to get through it as quickly as possible because we got a little bit long in turn number 1. Our 2-time champion, now a record-setting twice. Nobody has won the Knoxville Late Model Nationals 2 times at all, right? Nobody's won twice.
Two drivers have won it twice. No one's done it back-to-back. I mean, Scott Bloomquist and Brian Burkhoff are the only 2 repeat winners until last night.
I was really impressed with Mike Molitor because he stuck around in the front the entire race. We talked about some of these guys. They were fine with falling back a couple of spots early on in the race because they were saving their equipment. Mike stayed right up there the entire time.
I don't think he even dropped out of the top 5 at all. Throughout the race.
I don't think he dropped out of the top 3, but I mean, I wasn't paying that close attention.
There was a restart where he got bundled up, and I think he did drop back to 5th, maybe 6th, but no worse than that. And he was right back up. He ran the race in the top 3, y'all, but maybe 3 laps.
Mike runs a part-time team, and it's surprising he's able to come out here with that part-time team and win 2 Knoxville Late Model Nationals and be as good as he is. And during the press conference with Dirt on Dirt, he talked about how they have a quote-unquote badass team, and they're such a strong team. And so my question to him was, why don't you guys go and run full-time in 2018?
Well, I think why I have a good team, a lot of it's because we go when we're ready to go. And a lot of these guys that's doing it full time, they don't have that option. They got to go. And so sometimes we get tired, we're getting burnt out. We just say, hey, let's take a week or 2 off, regroup, go do some fun things for a day or 2, and then we'll get back after it.
You're a pretty cool, calm, collect guy. I've enjoyed talking to you the last 2 years in the media center, especially since you won. And it's pretty easy to put a good smile on your face and be calm and cool. But was there a point out there tonight that you started to get a little stressed behind the wheel?
When Jared jumped the cushion there, and as I was passing him, and that caution came out, I was like, I thought that might have cost me the race, because I seen what I had to do to win, and when he jumped the cushion, that was my prime opportunity, and then that caution came out, and I was like, hey man, that's no good. So that time there, I was definitely getting a little frustrated, but you got to stay cool,
I just want to know if you have developed a new favorite racetrack.
Well, this place here is awesome. It really is, and not because I'm good here, because I've when I was a kid, I would watch the sprint car races here, on video, and just always thought, I always thought this was an awesome place, and in Manzanita, Arizona, that place was cool, and so there's just historical places that I grew up as a kid watching that I've been fortunate enough to get a win in a couple of them. So this right here is definitely an awesome track, and definitely one of my favorite places.
We had a bit of a topsy-turvy night. Looked like we were going to try to get the races in as quickly as possible. They canceled the C feature. The B feature was rolling out just fine, and then the rain rolled in, and the rain stayed, and the rain kept coming, but lightly, though. Were you kind of paying attention to the track the whole time, wondering if maybe you're going to be racing tomorrow?
Yeah, honestly, it was an emotional night. You were like up and down, and like, man, we don't want to go out here. Like, I don't want to get hurt, and I don't want my fellow racers to be hurt. And sometimes if it ain't there, if the track ain't there, we just probably don't need to do it. And but I tell you, they exceeded my expectations with the racetrack tonight, because I mean it was just raining, and it's hard to recover from that. So these guys that work this track are amazing. How fast they got that dried up and packed in. And when we went out there, I was like, this is not bad. It's not rough. It's nothing. It's perfect. And I just couldn't believe it, really. So it was kind of an up and down night, but. Yeah, glad it worked out. And at one time today, I was like, man, I just hope it rains harder and they run tomorrow. But it worked out.
All right, man. 2017 Knoxville Nationals champion for the late models, 2 times in a row. Congratulations, man.
Thanks for having me. I always enjoy coming to Knoxville. Keep wanting this thing to grow, and hopefully we put on a good show.
You're putting on a good one, so it will.
Thank you.
And he did. I was really impressed. I think he was the guy I was the most impressed with, because between the comers and the goers and some of the stayers, even though you can look at Josh Richards and say, yeah, he led lap 18 to 91, strong car, he fell off late in that run. I think he pushed his car a little bit too hard, and Mike was there the whole time and really showed his strength, so good job to Mike. All right, well, we got a little bit of time left in turn number 2. Anthony, let's talk about some of the top finishers at Junction Motor Speedway. You guys wrapped up your points championship just about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it was quite a fun time throughout the 2017 season out of Junction Motor Speedway. It was good to see Travis Thielen Highlander go back to title contention in the Sport Compacts. That was his second career track championship out at Junction Motor Speedway. Had a hobby stock track title to his name, I believe, back in 2011. And speaking of the hobby stocks, Zach Olmstead out of Overton, Nebraska, he was in and out of the top 5 in the nation in the IMCA hobby stock points throughout the year. But Zach picked up his first track championship out at the Junction Motor Speedway. Taking a look at the IMCA Sport Mods, a guy that we've gotten to know a little bit, Austin Swoboda, who ran I-80 Speedway quite a bit this year, did really well. Austin picking up his second consecutive track championship out at the Junction Motor Speedway. And, of course, his younger brother, Justin, finishing third out there, I believe, for the second year in a row as well. And bumping up.
They're both becoming very strong contenders in this area for the modified class.
Both of them having probably their best season on record after this year. Going up to the IMCA A mods, of course, a little bit of change to the payout was made to the weekly modified purse, and I think we saw quite a few guys make the trip up here, especially from Kansas, especially since a Kansas native did win the modified championship. Tyler Fry out of Belleville, Kansas, last year's IMCA modified National Rookie of the Year, comes out, picks up the track title out at McCool Junction. First time he's done that out at McCool. And then, of course, for the first year in Junction Motor Speedway history, the late model division goes under the Naismith brand, the Naismith banner, the Naismith late model series based out of Claxton, Georgia. First year with that, of course, Lexington Raceway also carrying the Naismith banner out there. Josh Leonard out of Gibbon, Nebraska. He's run at I-80 a couple of times, done well out there. Leonard wins the track title out of Junction Motor Speedway in the late models, and then a few weeks later, Josh Leonard makes history by becoming the first Nebraska driver to win the Naismith National Late Model Championship. That was a $10,000 national title for a crate late model series. I believe Leonard also picking up the track championship out at Lexington, and also picked up quite a few wins down at Salina, Kansas. I believe they finished out the year with, I think, about 18 wins on the season. And it was what a breakout year this was for Josh Leonard. And on top of that, in the Naismith Late Model National Rookie of the Year standings, another Nebraska driver, Reese Vaught out of Aurora. I believe he's pretty much got the National Rookie of the Year title for the Naismith Late Models locked up as well. So I tell you, this Naismith deal, it's really made an impact here in its first year, and Nebraska has produced a Naismith national champion first time any track has been under the banner. That was incredible.
Awesome to hear. Junction Motor Speedway wrapping up their season. Any other races they have left to finish up the 2017 year?
Yep, the McCool 100, the Barb Noonan-Camp Memorial, which I think will be on IMCA TV for the first time in that event's history. So, if anyone who has a subscription to IMCA TV, they'll be able to watch the race live. 2 big nights of racing, I believe Saturday and Sunday, October 21st and 22nd, out at the Junction Motor Speedway. Pretty much the last race in the state of Nebraska, the McCool 100. All the weekly classes will be out there for one big showcase to close out the season.
We've got just a few minutes left before we head over to turn number 3 and talk about some news and notes from the NASCAR world. Let's talk about the Malvern Bank Super Late Model Series. Is there any possibility, and I realize that, mathematically, Tad doesn't have this locked up by any means, but Tad's kind of got it locked up.
Pretty much, yeah. We're looking at it going into the fall brawl a couple of weeks at I-80 Speedway, the 20th and final race of the 2017 season. Last I was checking my phone here, Tad Pospischal, 36-point lead over second place Kyle Burke. It's almost safe to say that Tad's got locked up from how he's been running, 15 top 5, 16 top 10s out of the races we were able to run. Of course, we lost 3. We lost 3 races to Mother Nature, but Tad has been looking so good this year. Won the U.S. 30 Speedway Track Championship this year, won the regular season track title in the Super Late Models at the I-80 Speedway. It looks like he's just about ready to wrap up the Malvern Bank Super Late Model Series title for the first time, and also becoming the inaugural Gales Gold Rush late model championship champion. This has been such a magical year for this 04 team.
I think it's safe to say that his year running with the MLRA late models really taught him a couple of tricks that he was able to bring and race during his weekly competition as he came back down and raced a little bit. I don't really want to say the smaller divisions, but it's not a regionally touring series like the Malvern Bank series or the MLRA is. And he's really carried that on into the Malvern Bank series and into his track championships.
He's had to, and of course, with running with the guys like Jesse Stovall, Terry Phillips, Chad and Chris Simpson, and Randy Timms, all those guys, he's had to learn a lot of things. And of course, I think with once in a while you'll get Ronnie Stuckey with Black Diamond Chassis. Tad's been running Club 29 the last couple of seasons, and I'm sure Stuckey has come out and possibly helped out Tad throughout his time in the MLRA, but wow, what a season this has been for Tad and Jerry Pospischal, the entire Pospischal family for this team, and just one more race could wrap up this masterful season.
And it's enough to say that Tad's looking to take the championship away from Kyle Burke, who's a 7-time champion?
Five-time.
Okay, and to do it in a fashion of 36-point lead going into the final night, that again speaks volumes to how well Tad's running.
Tad's been on the opposite end of this. I remember, was it 2014? It came down. 2014 and 2015 came down. Kyle Burke first, Tad Pospischal second, and now roles have been reversed, and it looks like Tad, he's going to become the fifth different Malvern Banks. Looks like he could become the fifth different series championship in the now 10-year history of this series. And man, what a season it's been! Everyone has stepped up their game. I had a couple of fans ask me, with how tough it's been. And of course, Kyle Burke, he hasn't had the breakout season. He struggled early on. People thought, is Kyle starting to finally come off his game? But I'm going like, no, he's not off his game. Everyone else has stepped up theirs. That's
absolutely
what's happening.
It's a tremendous series. Go ahead.
Also, Kyle started with that trailer fire at the beginning of the year and got behind the 8-ball to start off with. So
that'll throw you off, definitely.
But the second half of the season, Kyle's definitely bounced back.
Yep. And big things to come for the Malvern Bank Series. We've heard some rumors of some stuff that might get announced during the off season of some big races that might get added. I know you're trying to get a merch trailer put together.
I wish, and see if we can talk Kaziski Auto Parts into building an official pace car for the series.
By the way, if you want a good retirement plan, get a merch trailer with some die-cast cars and just plant it in front of Anthony's house.
I know. What was it? We're here in Knoxville, and we had a couple of guys come all the way from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, with a die-cast trailer. And I tell you what, I think I made up.
You helped them pay for their fuel, their hotel room, all of their food. I think you even paid for their beer.
Trailer came full. It's going home empty.
Yeah, pretty much. I love those guys.
We're gonna take a break. We'll come back in turn number 3. We'll talk about some NASCAR news and notes that have happened around the area. We'll be back here on the front stretch.
Numbers. In NASCAR, numbers represent speed, passion, guts, and glory. Because numbers represent drivers. Numbers like 14, 88, 42, and 78. Numbers that say, that's my driver. Don't mess with my driver. See your number live at Kansas Speedway's first ever playoff elimination race. The Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series Hollywood Casino 400. Sunday, October 22nd. Tickets at kansasspeedway.com.
Quaker Steak and Lube is the official watering hole for the front stretch and the best place to catch all the NASCAR action today. Open at 11 a.m. with delivery available to Council Bluffs.
Great times, great food, get to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Are you looking to book your next outing? Look no further than Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. Located just north of Bass Pro Shop, Joe's Karting can handle outings of well over 100 plus people. Bachelor parties, corporate outings, team building, birthday parties, and much more. Give Buddy a call today and reserve your outing. Joe's will even work with local restaurants to cater your event. Book yours today at joeskarting.com. That's karting with a K. It's time to get to Joe's and find out what everyone already knows.
Any driver will tell you that the key to winning a race is preventive maintenance.
Pat at Eccles Heating and Air can make sure your wallet is on the winning side with a preventive care package. Pat will look over your existing unit and make recommendations to make sure you're toasty warm this winter. Drivers trust Pat at the racetrack with their safety, so you know you can trust him with your home heating. Call Pat today at 402-331-1755 and schedule your heater checkup. Eccles Heating and Air.
Feather the brake and get back to the gas. Dan and Dirk are headed into turn 3 on the front stretch.
Yeah, and speaking of Eccles Heating and Air, it's going to be that time of the year where you're going to get that checkup. We can't really decide if it's going to be 70s or 90s.
Well, you decided last night we were sleeping in the 50s, so
yeah,
it's all good.
Felt good in here. That must have been an air conditioner serviced by Eccles Heating and Air. Turn number 3 brought to you by Kansas Speedway. Get your tickets today for their first playoff elimination race in the Monster Energy Cup Series. They are available now. Be a part of history at the Hollywood Casino 400, Sunday, October 22nd for just $99 or less. And kids get in for just $29. Visit KansasSpeedway.com or call 866-460-RACE. The great thing about ordering your tickets on KansasSpeedway.com, you get to pick your seating chart. You zoom into your section. You can see the exact rows, what's available. And they even had a view from the track for a while there. So you could pick the seat and then turn the camera around and see what you're going to see from the track. So it wasn't a rendering, it was an actual picture. They'd put all these pictures together for each individual seat, so that gives you a good idea. Here's the great thing about Kansas: there's so many seats available. I think they place seats like 65 or 70,000 people. Get your tickets, and then if you don't get exact view you want, move up a little bit. I always like to be up in the high grandstands up in turn number 4, because then you could see up over the entire speedway. It's a little bit of a nosebleed area, but I like being up over the action and watching everything as it unfolds.
You can see over the whole speedway from the front row at that place. It
That's
was designed, the infield and everything is sunken down.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been to a few tracks and been in the stands. You go to like Texas Motor Speedway, you got to get above row 32. And above row 32 will let you see the back straightaway. You sit down on the front row and you don't see the back straightaway at all.
KansasSpeedway.com or 866-460-RACE. Get over there today. Get your tickets for the Hollywood Casino 400 and the Kansas Lottery 300. All right, a couple of news and notes around the world. We got to start off with some sad news. Legendary modified champion Ted Christopher was killed yesterday or the day before in a plane crash, and the late model or the dirt world lost a legend in Mike Duvall. He passed away earlier this week. So our condolences go out to those families and the fans of those two drivers. Well, Dirk, the silly season continues for NASCAR. Smithfield announced earlier this week that they were going to be leaving Richard Petty Motorsports for Stewart-Haas Racing, and it started a bit of a war of words.
Yeah, Richard Petty says, I came up and, all you ever had was a handshake with people. And he goes, I thought we had a handshake agreement. And Smithfield saying, no, we did not. Mm-hmm. Richard Petty's a liar and stuff. And if you want to alienate some NASCAR fans, calling Richard Petty a liar is probably the quickest way to get that job done.
Well, I mean, I can understand for Smithfield. Unfortunately, it's great to say, well, back in my day, a handshake did the deal. And those still do happen in NASCAR. Kurt Busch had a handshake deal with Phoenix Racing in that 51 car when he was let go from Penske in that ride. And to my understanding, there was never a contract on paper. It was just a handshake deal. And people love to say that. But in the world of business, those things don't happen anymore. And with dealing with contracts and sponsorships like I do on a daily basis, I can easily see how Richard Petty would misunderstand a conversation and the direction of it, because I've done that before where I've gone back to my bosses and I've said, hey, I think we got a deal done here. And then you come to find out day, 2 days, week later, no, we don't have a deal. And all of a sudden you're kind of sitting there with your hat in your hand.
Well, and it also was terrible timing coming, right next to the announcement that Eric Almirola was no longer going to be in the 43 and that Bubba Wallace was going to take it over. I mean, it really, with the timing of the whole deal, left Smithfield looking really bad, you know. But
the good news is they make bacon, and when you make bacon, you're easily forgiven.
Oh, I mean, you go in that garage on Sunday morning, if they've got their trailer at the racetrack, which they do in Kansas City, you put on 5 pounds just walking around and inhaling.
I love it. So again, like we talked about, Drew Blickensturfer, who is the crew chief for the 43, announced that Eric Almirola is out of the 43 and the Bubba is in. Danica Patrick also announced via her Facebook page she would not be returning to the 10 at Stewart-Haas Racing. Now, I think that was spurred on because Smithfield said we're going to go over to Stewart-Haas Racing, which Stewart-Haas Racing also sent out a statement the same thing. But they haven't announced where the sponsorship is going to go. And we were talking about on the drive over, I think that really depends on a couple of factors laying into place. The big one for me is whether or not Monster re-signs with the 41 team, being Kurt Busch's team. If Monster ends up not re-signing with Kurt Busch but extends their contract as the entitlement sponsor for NASCAR, I think Smithfield ends up on the 41 car.
Yeah, well, it's really weird right now because I think Monster Energy's waiting to decide what they're going to do, waiting on seeing if Stewart-Haas is going to re-sign Kurt Busch.
Yeah. It's a whole flux thing right now, and it's really crazy to see. We're just waiting for one more pin to drop, maybe two more pins to drop before this whole thing falls, and we've got the domino effect of everything that's going to fall into place. But it's going to be really interesting. One thing that I think is still a set deal is I don't think the 10 car is going to be back on the track next year. And to the other point, I don't think there's going to be a fourth car at Stewart-Haas Racing.
Well, I still think there's going to be 4 cars at Stewart-Haas. I still think Kurt Busch is going to re-sign, and you're going to see him back with Monster Energy in the 41. I think you're going to see the 10 car with Cole Custer and that Smithfield sponsorship. That
very well could be. Matt Kenseth announced he would not be coming into that 10 car. He does not have a deal with Stewart-Haas Racing. So once again, we're left with where's Matt going?
Well, typical Matt Kenseth fashion. They said, so what, you know who's going to be in? He goes, not me. I'm not going to be in that 10 car.
Barney Visser announced that the 77 team is done after this season, and they are in the process of selling off that charter. They're very close to finishing it, which also spurs up another conversation. If I'm right, which doesn't happen very often, and Stewart-Haas Racing is selling their charter, which it kind of feels like to me, that's another thing that I think that Stewart-Haas Racing is trying to get rid of that 10 team and trying to lease out their charter, because Barney Visser made this announcement really quickly that they are closing the 77 team and they're selling that charter. I think he was trying to be the first one on the market for any teams that were looking to lease a charter for a year or two, and he wanted to get out there before Stewart-Haas Racing was out there with their charter.
Well, that could be, but he said all along that they couldn't do the 77 car without backing, and he said all along we have no backing. Mm-hmm. So it was no surprise that they said the 77 was going to be done. It's been pretty much out there for the last 60 days or so that, ever since they announced Eric Jones was going over to the 17, or not 17, excuse me, the 20, that Matt Kenseth's old number was the 17. But, it's... The silly season is definitely crazy this year, and like I said, there's just so much going on because a few years ago when they added the charter, that just put one more aspect into everything. But I see that charter. I'm pretty certain they're going to try and grab a third charter at Penske.
You think? They're going to have to, because with Joey, Brad, and...
Well, they don't have to. They can go out and try and qualify him in every race.
True.
And they're going to be fast enough that they're going to make fields, and
with
38 and 39 car fields, they're going to make fields, but I see him getting a charter.
But that charter is a very big deal, especially at Daytona, because that's a full field of cars, and that having that charter in your back pocket is a good thing for sponsors, because the sponsor wants to know, am I going to show up on that car, and is my car going to be in the starting grid? If you roll the dice and Ryan doesn't make the Daytona 500 for some weird reason, then the sponsors who have paid however much money for Ryan to be in that car for the Daytona 500 is now sitting there with what in their hands, So that's kind of one of the other reasons for the charter system. Congratulations to Tyler Reddick, who is a former Truck Series driver for Brad Keselowski, signed a deal to be in the Junior Motorsports car for 2018 in the Xfinity Series. And Superman Jonathan Davenport. Anthony, you can chime in on this just real quick, as we got a couple of minutes left before we got to go into turn number 4. Davenport picked up the World 100 after struggling for the last about a year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, he hasn't really struggled the last 2 years. I mean, 2015, he took the late model world by storm. Davenport, I believe 22 A-feature wins in 2015, including wrapping up the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series Championship. He said last year he had even more wins out there, 23 wins, including the 2016 Silver Dollar Nationals, which we saw with our own eyes. But this year, it's been kind of a slump. He started off running the Barry Wright house car, and didn't really have the best of luck. But then a few weeks ago, formed this new team with G.R. Smith and G.R. Smith Motorsports. Motorsports, I believe, out of Virginia. They go to the Hillbilly 100 out at the Tyler County Speedway, win that late, and then head out to the World 100 the very next week, lead every lap of that, picking up $50,000, and then they bring the car out here to Knoxville. Started outside the second row, had that tire go down just before that fuel stop, and then make the big hustle back towards the front and nearly pick off Marlar to pick up $40,000 more. I'm really interested to see what GR Smith is wanting to do, because I know GR, he's a regional driver on the East Coast, and now with this new Rocket team and Jonathan's putting that car up towards the front, only time will tell, and only what decisions are going to be made for that team.
It's scary to see Superman in a strong car like that, and he's going to be a force to reckon with for the rest of this Lucas Oil late model year and going into 2018. We got to take a break. We'll come back in turn number 4. We will recap some of the point standings, get you set for Chicagoland, and so much more. We got a lot of show left to go. Well, about 5 minutes. We'll be back here on the front stretch.
One big night of dirt track action is coming to I-80 Speedway on September 30th. The Midwest Fall Brawl featuring ASCS and Nebraska 360 sprint cars with the Malvern Bank Super Late models.
The biggest names in the Midwest, Dover, Burke, Layton, Bade, and many more all battle at I-80 Speedway for the right to stand in victory lane.
Don't miss the Midwest Fall Brawl featuring ASCS and Nebraska 360 sprints plus the Malvern Bank Super Late models. I80Speedway.com for tickets and information.
Kansas Speedway's first playoff elimination race is coming. Here's some reasons to be there. Reason number 88, it's Dale Jr.'s last Kansas NASCAR Cup race. We can all lift a cold one to that. Reason number 78, Martin Truex Jr., because underdog stories make the playoffs even better. Did I mention it's the playoffs? The Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series Hollywood Casino 400, Sunday, October 22nd. Tickets at kansasspeedway.com.
Dan and Dirk are live for one last corner. Give them a call now at 402-573-0590.
Well, while we would love to hear from you, we just don't have much time. But if you do call in, we'll put you on the air, and you can talk about whatever you'd like to talk about. Don't forget, race fans, it is Sunday, but there's some dirt track action to be had thanks to the wet works that Mother Nature has sent our way over the last 36 hours. The Tiny Lund, which was originally supposed to run Friday, Saturday, has been shifted to it was Friday, and then got delayed last night into today, so you can get down to Shelby County Speedway and experience the Tiny Lund. Again, congratulations to Dustin Thompson for winning his track championship in Adams County Speedway and being a young gun. If you have any young drivers that you want to get nominated for that, send us an email, frontstretchradio@gmail.com, and we'll get that form over to you. You can get it filled out.
And congratulations to Toyota for showing up in Chicago and making everybody else look bad.
Well, NASCAR's been letting them get away with stuff. That's pretty clear, according to all the
according
other.
To Brad.
Yeah, according to Brad, that's true. Hey, the season-long pickups contest, Terry Havenridge took the regular season, which didn't pay any points, unlike the Cup Series did. Karen Smith is now your points leader as the chase is now reset. So the top 16 include Karen Smith, Jeff Bolam, Terry Havenridge, Jim Belazina, the race and realtor, Michelle Roy, Patrick Watkins, John Dillon, Lane Cornwell, Shala Schneider, Terry Havenridge, Tom Preston, Brandon Broadhammer, R.L. Smith, Kathy Broadhammer, and Dale Smith and Paul Larson. Oddly enough, our defending champion did not make the chase.
Second year in a row. Make sure and get in and get that Crewman for a Day contest entered. That kicks off today. You got the next 5 races to try and get on Matt Tiff's honorary pit crew down there in Kansas Speedway.
Yeah, we got to partner with Joe Gibbs Racing and the number 19 Xfinity Series team. I want to say thanks to Kansas Speedway for opening up that opportunity to us, and a big thank you to Rick Havenridge of Wealth Partners for paying for the contest. Nothing is free in this world, and thanks to Rick, we're able to offer that contest to you for free. So all you got to do is pick the drivers you think are going to do best over the next 5 races for the Cup Series. If you get the most points by the end of the contest, then you're going to win 2 tickets to the Sunday Cup Series race, and you're going to get 2 Xfinity Series garage passes for Friday and Saturday, so you can walk around the infield and you can hang out with the Joe Gibbs Racing team. You'll get team gear, you'll get radios, you get to push the car through tech, you get to watch them practice, you get to listen to them as they practice, you get to watch this entire thing. And if you want to see a video of last time's Crewman for a Day winners, Tara and David Ackerson, you can go to our Facebook page, and we posted that up there. It's under our videos, and that's some of the stuff they got to do with David Starr Racing. I'm really excited to see what they're going to get to do with Joe Gibbs Racing.
Just remember, you must be 18 to enter, and that's not our rules. That's the racetrack and NASCAR that get involved at that with getting us those garage passes.
Next weekend, Bob Harris from Adams County Speedway is going to join us to recap the 2017 point standings and to preview the tradition. We'll recap Chicagoland, and we'll preview New Hampshire. Anthony, appreciate you joining us, bud. It's been a great couple of days.
Absolutely, and you know, we always have a good time whenever late models are involved. We always have a good time, and thanks for bringing me up. I wouldn't mind joining you guys again on the Knoxville Nationals tour.
Well, we might have to do that because we've had a good time doing it.
I don't know what you said. I probably jinxed it with all that rain that came through.
Way to blame somebody.
Yeah,
but I did get a kick out of the fact that last night when we were in the media center, all by our lonesome, no media covered this. That's just terrible.
Well, the best media covered it.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah.
Dirt on dirt.
Michael Rigsby, D. Swab, Ben Shelton.
All right, we're up against the hour. We got to end it for today. Join us next weekend as we'll do it all over again. For Dirk Houston, I'm Dan Taylor. Thanks to co-host Anthony Ainslie for joining us. This has been The Front Stretch, presented by Joe's Karting on AM 590, Omaha's ESPN Radio.
The official watering hole of The Front Stretch has you covered any day of the week with the best wings, great burgers, and amazing steaks. Each weekday from 4 to 6 is happy hour, featuring $1 off draft and well drinks plus $4 Luberitas. Mondays are kids' night. Tuesdays are all-you-can-eat wings for $12.95, and the lube even delivers to the Council Bluffs area. Like Quaker Steak and Lube Council Bluffs on Facebook for a full list of weekly events.
Got to Quaker Steak and Lube.
Mid-America Drive, Council Bluffs.
Need a reason to be at Kansas Speedway's first playoff elimination race? Here's some. Reason number 4. Last year's winner, Kevin Harvick. You better believe he's ready to burn it down again this year. Reason number 18, Kyle Busch. Love him or hate him, love him and hate him. But don't ever underestimate him. The Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series Hollywood Casino 400, Sunday, October 22nd. Tickets at kansasspeedway.com.
This has been the Front Stretch Radio Show, presented by Joe's Karting in Council Bluffs. To contact Dan or Dirk, find them on Facebook at The Front Stretch or email them at frontstretch590@gmail.com. If you missed any part of today's show or want to hear a previous show, subscribe to the Joe's Karting YouTube page, where you can find almost every Front Stretch show.